Good morning. It's Sarah. I hope everyone's doing well today on this winter morning, at least here in New England. And I'm wearing my little fur today because I'm looking out the window and it is snowing. So we're in for the long haul now. The snow is falling in New England. So listen, anyone who's out in Florida or California, you guys, you've got it made. Now that's a perception, you see. I could look at this a different way and say, you know what? I'm lucky I get to spend winter in New England. It's fantastic. So, and it's all the way you look at it, right? So that's what we're learning right now, is everybody's perception is completely different. We can look at the same thing and see if 40 people are looking at something, we can see 40 different perceptions. Because essentially we are all living in our own worlds. It's amazing that we can even communicate with one another, because we're literally living in all these separate minds and separate worlds until we make the shift and we start to realize that we're all one, and really our mind is connected with the mind of God. And then all of a sudden we're all one. So this morning we're going to do lesson number 4. Yesterday was lesson number 3. And lesson number 3 was, I hope everybody did okay with that. I do not understand anything I see in this room, on this street, from this window, and in this place. So that was lesson number 3. And, you know, this is a bit of a shake-up for a lot of us whose minds are solid in reality. But just have that little bit of willingness. That's all the Course asks for, that little tiny crack of light that is willing to open up to a different way, to seeing. Just that little tiny, that seed of willingness. So let's go to lesson number 4, and we'll just go right into it. These thoughts do not mean anything. They are like the things I see in this room, on this street, from this window, in this place. These thoughts do not mean anything this morning. So unlike the preceding ones, these exercises do not begin with the idea for the day. In these practice periods, begin with noting the thoughts that are crossing your mind for about a minute. So, you know, we're going to get quiet. You have to get quiet and start to listen to the thoughts in your mind. You know, what's racing through your mind this morning? Got to get the kids to school. Got to get breakfast. Got to, do this, do that. So you sit quietly, you listen to all the thoughts racing through your mind for about a minute. And again, you can do this in some quiet after this video, because I could spend an hour on here, but I'm going to read these, and it's up to you, which for all of us, it's always up to us to do what you will with this course. So note with things that are crossing your mind for about a minute. Then apply the idea to them. If you are already aware of unhappy thoughts, use them as subjects for the idea. Do not, however, select only the thoughts you think are bad. You will find, if you train yourself to look at your thoughts, that they represent such a mixture that, in a sense, none of them can be called good or bad. This is why they don't mean anything. In selecting the subjects for the application of today's idea, the usual specificity is required. Do not be afraid to use good thoughts as well as bad. None of them represents your real thoughts, which are being covered up by them. Now that's interesting. Our real thoughts are being covered up by all of these other thoughts that we're thinking every day. The good ones are but shadows of what lies beyond, and the shadows make sight difficult. The bad ones are blocks to sight and make seeing impossible. You do not want either. This is a major exercise and will be repeated from time to time in somewhat different form. The aim here is to train you in the first steps toward the goal of separating the meaningless from the meaningful. It is a first attempt in the long-range purpose of learning to see the meaningless as outside of you, and the meaningful is within. It's also the beginning of training your mind to recognize what is the same and what is different. In using your thoughts for application of the idea for today, identify each thought by the central figure or event it contains. For example, this thought about whatever you're thinking does not mean anything. It is like the things I see in this room, on this street, and so on. You can also use the idea for a particular thought that you recognize as harmful, maybe a fearful thought that's really destroying your mood. This practice is useful, but it is not a substitute for the more random procedures to be followed for the exercises. Do not, however, examine your mind for more than a minute or so. You are too inexperienced as yet to avoid a tendency to become pointlessly preoccupied. I remember being pointlessly preoccupied with thoughts. And it's exhausting. And it's an energy drain. And when we learn how to not go on a flight, I call it a flight, with our thoughts, just, oh, yeah, let's go off this way through this hateful thought, this attack thought, this I'm a victim thought, this complaint thought, this anger thought. When we're going off on all these, thoughts that are waving in the wind and change all the time, it's exhausting. And we're believing them and we're becoming the thoughts. But as this course develops, we will realize that we are not these thoughts. I can't stress that enough. We are not our thoughts. We are not our feelings. We are not these emotions. We are something so much bigger. And inside of us, we have this incredible place of solidity and peace and calm and joy. And so instead of flitting about all day long, oh yeah, let's go down that path, let's go down that path, we can sit quiet and we can just be present and deal with what is in front of us. So that's where we're going to go. So don't become pointlessly preoccupied. Further, since these exercises are the first of their kind, you may find the suspension of judgment in connection with thoughts particularly difficult, because we judge all of our thoughts as good or bad. Do not repeat these exercises more than 3 or 4 times during the day. We will return to them later. So, again, these thoughts do not mean anything. whether they're good or they're bad. They are like the things I see in this room, on this street, from this window, and in this place. So our rational mind today will be like, this was a tough one for me. It'll be like, what's going on here? We're in charge. We're the thoughts. We're the thought police. We are real. We do mean something. We are something. We are your whole being. But that's just a lie. This took me a while, but it is a lie, and there is something way bigger than our thoughts. So play with this today. Have fun. And remember, we are not our thoughts. We are love and joy and peace. And we are whole and complete. Any thought that tells you otherwise is not real. The only thoughts are loving thoughts. And when you have a loving thought about yourself or another person, then you know that that's real because it feels good. Any thought that makes you feel bad, makes you feel fearful, makes your stomach drop. Any thought about the future that makes you feel scared, any thought about the past that makes you feel guilty, you're going to learn not to listen to those because they're not real. They don't mean anything. The only thing that matters is this present moment. And when you find yourself drifting, take a couple deep breaths. And when you feel yourself getting caught up in thought, tell yourself, just try to be aware. Try to be aware and catch yourself lost in thought. And tell yourself, this is not who I really am. This is not who I really am. So, tomorrow, lesson 5, we will go right into it. But for today, just take it easy. And remember, you are a child of God. You're a loving, whole, and complete. And you are not alone. You're not alone. We are all connected. We're all here together in this life. And we're all looking for the same thing. No matter who we are, we're human and we're spirit. And we're all connected. And when you get a sense of that everything you do has a ripple effect across the world, you will choose to do and think good thoughts that can affect the world in a good way. So I just want to thank you for being my teachers, because as I do this, I receive incredible, incredible love and support from the universe. Because whatever we put out is returned to us. That's the true definition that giving is receiving. So take care. I know I'm babbling on. And play with lesson number 4. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And have a wonderful, wonderful day, because it's up to us to have a wonderful day. Wonderful days don't happen to us. We make them. Take care. Much love.